All right, so morning everyone. So of course we're going to be covering Stress Management 101, okay? Uh, and here it is, I'm working with all you, Keystone Community Living. So I was working here years ago, but it's a blast to run a stress management with all of you. So first thing, before we get to anything, let me ask you, if you could just go through around, each person just mention your name real quick, what you do and what you want to get out of this.
My name is Keisha. I'm a program director, and come back to me.
Okay. And here it is. Of course, when we do something like this, as you know, sometimes you got it. You know what you want to get out of it. Sometimes you change your mind. Sometimes you can't figure it out at all.
I know what I want to get.
Yeah, what's that?
I have an issue with, and I mean, this is not a big issue, but sometimes when there's crises going on when I'm not at work, my family gets frustrated because they say, "You're not at work," and I try to tell them, I'm always at work. So I guess balancing home and work. That's probably what it is.
Got it. That's a good one. Lucy.
So hi, my name is Lucy, and I'm the administrative assistant. And this is my first time ever dealing with any type of stress knowledge. So it's an experience for me. So
Cool. Nice.
I'm Kayla. I'm a physical support staff, and I'm here to manage stress.
No. Okay.
I'm Kyle, I'm the associate HR director, and I'm trying to just get a refresher. It's always good to have a refresher.
Okay.
I'm Jen. I'm here. Staff training is what I do mostly, and I'm here just open to suggestions.
Nice.
I'm Richard. I'm the supportive living manager / coordinator. I'm here to actually take advantage of new techniques in dealing with stress on a personal level and using it to apply it where needed in life.
Beautiful. Nice.
I'm Veronica, ESP. Currently, I've moved to a different country and then it's just stressful all over, so I think I'll take advantage.
Wow. Cool. And welcome.
Thank you.
What country?
Ghana?
Nice.
Yeah.
Different experience here, huh?
Yeah,
Right. Culture shock, yeah.
I'm Dina, Director of Risk Management, and I'm just here to gain some information.
I'm Zelda, Director of Staff Transportation, and I want to know, what is stress management? Such a thing, really? Tell me over.
Very
I'm Lisa, Human Resources Director, and I'm here to learn too.
Excellent. All right, so the thing that's cool is we can all learn from each other. And as I've said before, I love when I'm running a seminar, it shouldn't just be me talking, because that gets kind of boring. And the more we can all share with each other, the better it is for all of us, because we all learn, okay? And of course, I'll mention, as you all know, that we had a pretty crazy morning as it was raining cats and dogs, torrential downpour. I know it took me a lot longer to get down, going really slow in some spots. I could have walked faster, just dealing with floods and other things. And same thing here, some of you? Right, so you never know what you're going to deal with, right? And what we're going to do today, so my goal is to help you get out of this as much as you can, okay? And once again, the group sharing, and we'll go from there. So I guess let's go to the next slide. 6 components of health. So I like discussing this first. So we have, if you go by this, something called the wellness continuum, which we'll get into further. But with the wellness continuum, it shows that there's 6 different components of health. And what the wellness continuum discusses is it's really almost impossible to really have a balance, everything cooking on all burners at one time, all those different areas of health and wellness, we discuss it. So let's see, if you look at physical health, refers to the way that your body functions. So it includes eating right, getting regular exercise, and being at your recommended weight. It also avoiding drugs and alcohol and being free of disease and sickness. So I'm curious, anyone feel that they're pretty together on that now, consistently? No? Anyone feel like sharing with that? And anyone here, so here, who here works out? Okay, cool. So we got some people who work out. Who here feels you're at the, if you're comfortable with asking this, me asking this, if you're at the weight you want to be?
Okay.
We can talk about it further. Drugs and alcohol and being free of disease and sickness. Do you feel that you're together there? Once again, these are things that you may want to answer, you may not, but things to at least think about. And once again, this is not to pass judgment, because I'm one who believes in keeping a balance going. And as I try to be transparent, especially with my personal training clients, I pride myself in eating really good and exercising and meditating and everything. And then I take the times out myself for once in a while, a shot of Jack Daniels, cold beer. When it's in season, a box of Malamars. I get stoned 2-3 times a year. Everything, just some kind of balance without feeling guilt. Because if we talk about that, is that going to hurt us more if we're really anal and trying to be perfect? Or is it better to kind of let loose, give yourself a balance?
I don't think it falls under being perfect. I think individuals are just nervous with dealing with it themselves. Like, for instance, smoking was a big issue for me from the age of 19. And I just built it in my brain not to do it in front of other people, but it was something that I did, wasn't nothing that I hid. Me overcoming that was me realizing for me that it was not good, it wasn't healthy, and just stopping. But in the midst of me stopping, I felt judged and ridiculed in the sense of how it was perceived, the fact that I did it.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I did it. So when I think now of why I quit, I wonder if I dissect my own mind. I wonder if I quit for everybody else or did I quit for me? Because I was still working out. I was still doing everything that I'm doing now. It was just that substance was in me, making me, more unhealthy.
Good question. That's a very good question. And it's something to think about with anything in our lives. Why are we doing something? Are we doing it for your spouse, your loved one, your kid, or somebody else, or some other reason, or is it for you? Or is there a number of reasons? Cool, thanks. Emotional, expressing your emotions in a positive, non-destructive way. So I find I'm usually really pretty good with that in most cases. I know there's been, I think about examples. Okay, so here's my son Dylan, who's got his challenges, and at the same time, Dylan, people who know him consider Dylan like an old soul, so to speak. So a couple of years ago, I'll give an example. We had just seen all the Star Wars movies, and something in my office broke, and Dylan came into the room because he heard me using some choice 4-letter words. So, and of course I teach stress management, so I know you're surprised because I'm always perfect. I never have any flaws at all. So anyway, with Dylan, he comes in and he looks at me and he says, "Dad, are you going to the dark side?" The whole mindset with Star Wars. But it was cool because I love when my kid uses my teaching, my parenting on me. But if you look at that, did I have control there? And then the thing is, we can go into that question, is it okay to be angry? Is it okay to let loose? And or to what degree, right? So any thoughts on that with emotion, one way or another?
It's okay to be angry. It's just how you deal with the anger. Because there's nothing, you can't hide from it. It's gonna happen, but it's how you deal with it, where it can be in a destructive way,
right? Or
it can be in a positive way.
Right.
So there's always a positive and a negative. So anger is sort of it's negative, because it's angry. It's an emotion. But if you deal with it in a positive way, you'll overcome that moment of anger.
Okay, so that's an interesting thing. We could probably spend hours talking about anger, good, bad. But then again, what you're saying, Lucy, of course, is how people are dealing with it, what they're doing.
Right. So it's okay to be angry, Because again, it's an
Right.
emotion, but it's how you deal
Right.
with the anger.
Sounds good. Anyone? Do you agree? Disagree? Okay. Okay. Cool. Okay. Social, the quality of your relationship with family, friends, teachers, employers, and others who are you in contact with. So, people who know me know I'm a social person. So I know I can definitely be very connected to a lot of people, and I feel that interconnection with the world. Yet I know there's times myself I have felt, even if I'm in a room of people, maybe I feel a little alone. So I don't know if that is resounding with anyone else or anybody else's thoughts on the social. So yourself?
Yeah, that's me every day, and I too am like you, very social. But it's me overcoming a insecurity within myself, because every time I'm in a room full of people, I still feel like it's just me in that room, and I don't know, everything is centered around what could be in a negative
Right.
negative aspect, not in a positive way. So I try to focus my energy on focusing on everybody else
Got it.
in a positive way.
Right. Okay, cool. Okay. Environmental, keeping your food and water clean, your food safe, and the land around you enjoyable and safe. So you think about that, right? And for some reason, I'm thinking, first of all, to Puerto Rico. They're still trying to get themselves together. You look what everything's been going on for them there. And I don't know if anybody has other examples, any thoughts, other thoughts with that? Sorry?
Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan, yeah, you're right. Good point.
And even if you want to make it more personal, I get mad sometimes just when I come in the house and it's looking right. So that's part of it too.
Right, there you go. Oh, yeah. Well, you look at that environment, right? Now, me, if anybody remembers the, some of you, I think it's way before your time, The Odd Couple. Okay, so you had Felix, who is neat freak, and Oscar, who is Mr. Sloppy and everything, right? I can really play both parts. I know I'm usually striving to be very organized, and I'm clinically ADD, if people haven't known that by now. So I know I need to keep things together, and when I don't, it's more challenging to keep myself emotionally, everything balanced. But so that's one of those interesting thoughts for your own environment, like you're saying, right? What happens when you, let me just ask you, what does it feel like for you when you come into your home and it's, taking the old Yiddish word verkackt, all messed up?
Frustrated, angry, I do.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna lie, because like you said, I'm in between too. I'm not like I'm a neat freak. But I think two things. One, when it's my mess, then I don't mind. But when it's other people's mess, I get aggravated because then I'm cleaning up after somebody else. And with 3 kids, a lot of times it's not my mess. So it does get very frustrating.
Okay, cool. No, good share, thanks. Anybody else?
I'm the same way, actually. I work remotely some days out of the week, and
Mhm.
so if my house is not sort of in order, I can't function. I feel like I have no focus, I can't, so
Mhm.
I know that. I'm going home today, I better clean up so that I
Right.
can work tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Does
Yeah.
that, and this is for the people that answered, does that apply when you're home, like if your home is disarray, when you come to work, is your mind disarray throughout your day?
Mm.
No, interestingly enough,
Okay.
not for me. I can leave that there.
You can leave it there.
Yeah, but it's the opposite, I can't. Well, it's only when I'm working there,
Okay.
you know.
It doesn't bug you to know that something is it's
It
not right at
doesn't.
home?
It doesn't. It's interesting, it doesn't. It should maybe.
If I had left my car windows open with the rain right now, it would bug me through this whole thing.
Really?
I have to go fix that to pay attention to it.
Because your mind is somewhere else, right? Okay. Okay. The games we play in our heads. Mental, the ability to recognize reality and cope with the demands of daily life. So anybody on that one?
I have a question with life. So many people are interested in playing games, like on their iPhones and their Androids, and to me, it's just the ability to recognize the reality and cope with the demands of daily life. To me, it seems, I mean, it's my opinion, but I don't think that's healthy. Because I think a lot of times when they're playing the games, it's taking them away from the demands of daily life
Right.
and them coping with it. So that's a way for them to ignore the importance in life.
Right. I mean, I kind of have those thoughts myself a lot because here it is, we're getting away from the interconnectedness, which is one of those buttons I choose to have myself. When we have a situation where if I make a call, something I have to deal with, maybe a bill, and I get on the phone and you hear, okay, please press 2 or 3. You get it where you have these robotic kind of voices on the other end instead of hearing a human. And how often do we hear humans nowadays? Usually it's something else, right? And now I guess we could go into a whole subject matter about all kinds of society's ills when it comes to things like that, feeling disassociated from others.
So getting back to that being said, they say that they actually create these games to handle stress. But dealing with a stress management class, and you're the professional at this, could that be true? I don't believe so.
Maybe for some people, but then that's one of those things. I'm one who believes in balance, not that we always have balance, and once again we're talking about the 6 components of health and the wellness continuum. I'm one who believes there might be some people out there that is really their stress reliever. There's definitely people I know who do that. But then how caught up do you get into there? And are you dealing with reality? Because once again, if we're using something like that and you're immersed in that all the time, if you're not dealing with people, is it an escape?
Right, exactly.
So it's one of those interesting kind of things, right? You look at that, ability to recognize reality and cope with the demands of daily life. Anyone here, raise your hands if you find life is really easy. Yeah, of course, no hands are going up.
No, I was saying, maybe you don't want to deal with reality. Maybe the stress is so overpowering that is where you want to be for that hour or whatever. And it's like, screw everything else. This is
What
my
I
age,
deal
and this
with.
is what I want to deal with right now. And then
Right.
you can come back to dealing with what you have to deal with.
Mm. Good point, right. Well, that's one of those things, getting those breaks, whether you're talking about something like meditation, which we'll talk further about later, or using something else. I know at one point, and I'm a big sports fan, I have a lot of passions with things, but I know with sports, there was at one point when I used to love it, just opening the sports page and watching sports, and I still can enjoy it, but you look at how many controversies are happening, whether you're dealing with football players with brain injuries and concussions and ending up acting violent, or you hear about athletes who are pulling all kinds of illegal things, or you could go on and on and on. Music stars, politicians.
When people find an escape, isn't that them recognizing their reality? Just saying.
That's a good question. So when people are finding an escape, or they're finding the reality?
Yeah, so they recognize that they're stressed and that they need to, that's what he's saying, like.
So the next step
Right.
is to get rid
Do
of
something. There you go.
Get a new coping mechanism.
Beautiful. See, now you're like, I think you're a little bit ahead of where we're going, but that's cool. That's fine. Because you're getting the juices flowing. That's good. Thank you. You're my best buddy. Okay, spiritual. Maintaining harmonious relationships with other living things and having spiritual direction and purpose according to one's ethics, morals, and values. So anyone here find that, where do you feel you're at with that? Anybody? Do you feel you're kind of plugged into that or no?
Honestly, that's probably my, what do you call it, like my anchor.
Okay.
And I connect that to everything else that's on top of there.
Okay.
So for me, and anybody that know me, I mean, I'm crazy, but I'm a very spiritual person.
Okay.
So I kind of connect that, like that's the center, and then I take that back to everything else that's on top. So that's really
Nice.
important to me.
Excellent. Anybody else? So anybody in terms of spiritual, let me ask. So anybody here go to the church, mosque, temple, anything?
Yeah, 7 days a week.
Okay. Do you find that helps?
So crazy.
Okay. Anybody here meditate? Okay. So, yeah, see, we have our connection. So myself, so I was born and raised Jewish. I'm not Mr. Religious. Nowadays, I may go to a Unitarian fellowship. My term, which I've shared with people sometimes, I refer to myself as a Jubu. Since I go to Unitarian fellowship, that means you're Unitarian Universalist. But I think of myself as a Jew who leans to Buddhism. And I guess I could throw in other religions. So me, I just start off my day, I get to my meditation during the day, and I do a few prayers. And that's for me. That works for me. So I have a Mother Teresa prayer, I have a Druid prayer, I have a few others. And say I can devote, I have a little bit more accessible time, I have a booklet of different kind of prayers. So that works for me, but once again, we all have to find our way. I mean, I find that when I'm camping or if I'm outside, if I'm doing a hike, do I feel a real spiritual connection? You get that? And that's powerful. So with all of us, you know, we can look at that in whatever ways, once again. And I guess we can move on to the next slide. Watch this. Was that amazing? So here it is. We're just discussing this again. The wellness continuum. It is unrealistic to have complete wellness all of the time. No one is completely healthy or unhealthy. Right? And there's people I know who have all kinds of severe illnesses. And there's people I know who have these great attitudes. My mom, I'll mention my mom, who June will be 4 years she's gone. And she was dealing with pancreatic cancer. So with my mom, it's a case that she had this great attitude. She was at my sister's in Randolph-on-the-Lake, and she just kept talking about she had all this love around her, nothing to be said about. And she loved life. My mom, at 86, she was one of those, she had a gusto. I feel that I learned a lot from her. She was a big influence on me. 4'11", if she was standing on her toes, basically, and she had all the moxie in the world. So physically, forget it. But you look at other things. I think the spiritual was something, and the emotional, and she really came into grips. And I'm sure you've dealt with people like that. And then we've dealt with people on the other way, right? Just one tiny little thing sets them off. And
it's part of human nature to, it's kind of like if you lose your vision, then your hearing becomes more keen. So I think that I've come into contact with a lot of people who physically are not well, sick, different things. And I find a lot of times, like, you know, that they have like such positive attitudes, and I'm like, how are you like in that situation and you're so positive? But I think that even sometimes if you're physically not healthy, you have more time to develop. Like you said, you have time alone to get a better spiritual connection. You know, just getting to know yourself better, and also sometimes when, like, for example, my uncle just had his second leg amputated on New Year's Eve, and like he's just so, like, it's funny because I would think losing both of his legs, he lost one years ago when I was a little kid, and then the other one, like I said, New Year's Eve, and I'm looking at him, and it's like he seems to be in the best physical health, emotional health that I've ever seen him all of my life. So I don't know how that works out, but it's just amazing to me.
Very cool, you know? I'll share one person. So this guy, Jesse. So when I was in college, I went to Kane University. I was on the King College hotline, or as we would call it, suicide hotline. I dealt with 5 suicide calls, dealt with all different other calls. Great organization, and a lot of my closest friends today are friends from back then, okay? And we also had a walk-in center, so people on campus could come in and discuss things. And we had a nice, just couch, people could come in, just chill out. So they might want to discuss things, but then if people wanted to just visit, because we were a very accommodating group, we had one person, a friend of mine, his name was Jesse. Jesse lost his right arm to cancer as a kid. So with Jesse, he had his prosthetic on. And what he would do for a lot of people, I loved it. People might be coming in and they're sitting on the couch talking to him, people who didn't know him before. And he'd say, hey, can I just rest my arm on your shoulder? You know, what are you doing? And almost every time, he'd unhook it, get up and walk away. So he'd be walking away, and he'd have his arm there on their shoulder. And most people loved it. But a lot of people were, of course, like, but it's great. Because once again, if Jesse was taking that attitude, so physically, okay, he didn't have that going on, but on the other end.
I like that you bring that up. Putting your flaws in front. I do that, and I'm told not to do that from a lot of people in my life. And it irritates me because it's like, I really don't, I care less what someone else thinks. If I'm being true to me, I'm being true to you. You can probably learn something from me, just like I can learn from you. But I'm told from a lot of people, don't do that. Don't put everything out there. Even right now, I feel like I'm putting too much out there based off of someone else's thought process. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, we do that. Yeah, we get into that BS in our heads, right? We beat ourselves up like crazy.
How do you feel about that? What's your thoughts on that? What's your take on that?
Well, two things. Well, so for one thing, one person might say it's a flaw, somebody else may not. Jesse may have said it's something that made him special. How many times have you come across with people with amputations or other things going on? And instead of feeling like it's something that's really horrendous for them, maybe they feel a blessing. So that's something I look at in that respect. Another thing. So I get into a lot, not that I'm always practicing what I preach, and I always want to also say that I strive to really walk the walk and talk the talk, but I'm as screwed up as any other human on this world. So I know I make my mistakes with things. But one thing I look at is I believe strongly we choose to feel a certain way. And when I taught physical education, I'd even get into my elementary school kids. And I had a real thing, the music teacher loved the fact that I might bring in teaching phys ed. World music, I might have jazz, Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald singing, world music, all kinds of things. And one thing I talked to them about is, well, okay, if a certain piece of music comes on, do you feel a certain way? Now, is it a case that it's magic, that the music can magically create this mindset, or is it from whatever life experience we've had? It's what we choose, so it's attaching. So in terms of that, I'd say it's not so much, it's more your choice of how you feel.
Like it was a balance, like what you.
Right. That's what I look at.
Everything.
Right.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's what I look at. So we take the attitudes.
You said a key word, which is perspective, and I think that's a lot of times what, even what I was saying about people who are, suffering from illness and stuff. For somebody who's never been sick, you're looking at sickness like, oh, if I ever get sick, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But if you're looking at somebody who overcame cancer twice, and then they just had to get their arm amputated, they're like, oh, thank you, I'm here. So it really depends on, your perspective.
Oh, exactly. I'll mention, anybody remember Toady Fields? She's before the time of most people in here. So Toady Fields was a comedian many years ago, and she was very big with ripping herself apart all the time. And I never can say the word, how do you say it? Depreciating humor? Thank you, self-deprecation. Okay, so thank you. So with Toady Fields, she would always bust on herself about being heavy. Then I think she got diabetes, and she had maybe it was 2 legs amputated. She lost a ton of weight. And then she was busting on herself, from what I remember, saying, if I knew that I could have lost weight doing this, I would have done this years ago. Like, beautiful, beautiful. Just taking that, right? Okay, so we're gonna move on from this, and here we go. So much delay. There we go. The effects of stress. Not that we deal with physical effects of stress, right? So today's seminar will be getting into a lot, discussing this, and I figure next time or another time we can get into a lot of different skills. So this is good to kind of decipher. Physical or mental stresses may cause physical illness as well as mental or emotional problems. Here are the parts of the body most affected by stress. Hair. High stress levels may cause excessive hair loss and some forms of baldness. Now, I don't know if that is from genetics. I know my grandpa Nathan lost it early on, or just the stress, but we can look at what happens with hair. But if there's anyone you ever know of, or have you ever dealt with, issues with hair thinning, hair falling out, and maybe it is relating to stress, what's going on. Brains. Stress triggers mental and emotional problems such as insomnia, headaches, personality changes, irritability, anxiety, and depression. Anyone? Any of those? Anyone else?
I've had insomnia when I was going through periods of stress.
Okay, so you think of that. That's big, right? So once again, this is relating to stress and how it relates to our health. Muscle, spasmodic pains in the neck and shoulders, musculoskeletal aches, lower back pain, and various minor muscular twitches and nervous tics are more noticeable under stress. Anybody?
When in stressful times, yes.
Okay, think of that. Think about how stress is having this effect on us in ways. Digestive tract. Stress can cause or aggravate diseases of digestive tract, including psoriasis, stomach, and thank you, ulcers. See, and now here it is, I'm running the stress management. I'm not going to get stressed that I'm butchering some of these words. Ulcerative colitis and irritable colon. And we could go into many other things. You think about that. Maybe it's just a short term or maybe it's long term, right? Covers a lot of ground. And once again, if, say, there's some things you don't want to share, think about in your head, though, some of these things that may be affecting you or people you know. Moving on. Digestive tract, well, we said that. Skin. And it's challenging reading some of this the way it looks on here on the screen. Some individuals next to stress.
It says some individuals react to stress with others without outbreaks of
Yeah. Problems.
problems such as eczema and psoriasis.
Right. So I know people who have dealt with that. Anybody else? Whether it's you or others? Or let's do this. Raise your hands if you know people of anyone who's dealt with any of this. Think of that. Look at this. And this is crazy. Mouth. Mouth ulcers, excessive dryness are often symptoms of stress. Right? Ever deal with that? Now it's funny. So last week, so I'm part of a BNI networking group Tuesday mornings. And my son's mom, she was on her honeymoon. So she was away with her new husband. And I had my son Tuesday morning, I had to get him to school. Normally he's with his mom Mondays, and she gets him to school Tuesday mornings. So he was with my networking group. And Dylan's an outgoing kid. Yet we talked, and everyone in my networking group, we take about a minute to do a presentation about what we need for business that week. And here was Dylan, who I had asked, hey Dylan, you want to be part of this? And he was very excited. So at the last second, he was a little dry in his mouth, and he expressed his nervousness, which of course is normal. And of course I expressed to him, hey, still getting up in front of everybody who I feel are people or friends, and I think this is a warm group, and I know some of you from a long time, but there's the stress no matter what goes on. Anyway, so kind of getting a little bit off the track, but once again, mouth ulcers, excessive dryness. So yeah, dealing with sometimes the dryness from stress, right? Heart, cardiovascular disease, hypertension linked to accumulated stress. Anyone know anyone? Ever dealt with that? Okay, so you think of that, right? I mean, stress, we're talking now, research shows that stress can be a factor in as much from 70 to 85% of health issues. Think of that. 70 to 85%. How insane is that? Right? So whether it's a primary issue with our health or a secondary issue or primary with somebody that we know or love or secondary, you think of that. I think about that for a second, so I'll mention Star Wars again. So who did we lose last year? Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher. Do you remember what happened with Debbie Reynolds, her mom?
Day after.
She lost.
Right
Yeah.
The day after.
So that broken heart, she was all about, and she kept saying to the son, I know, the son kept saying, Carrie's brother, that she wanted to be with Carrie.
Yep.
You think about that. So we're talking heart. Lungs, high levels of mental or emotional stress adversely affects individuals such as asthmatic conditions. Anyone ever deal with asthma or breathing issues? Okay, so you think of that, right? That's big. And reproductive, let's see, does it work better? Not really, with my glasses on or off, I don't know. Yeah, reproductive organs. Stress affects the reproductive system, causing menstrual disorders and recurrent vaginal infections in women, and impotence or premature ejaculation in men. So, anyone feel like sharing about themselves or people they have known? I mean, I've known people, right? That's a safe way to go. But we look at that. This is crazy. Can this affect the human condition? And what's interesting, if we go back to the, if we flash back to the previous slide, social, emotional. You look at some of these. If, say, you feel a connection to somebody, and say we're trying to connect in many ways, and say we're dealing with things on the physical sense, including, say, physical contact with people, and intimate contact, and you're dealing with some of those, does that kind of throw a monkey wrench into things? And we can go back. So think of that, and let's go to the next slide. Here's just another slide on all this. Effects of stress in the body. Brain and nerves, headaches, feelings of despair, lack of energy, sadness. Now this is much easier to read. Nervousness, anger, irritability, trouble concentrating, memory problems, difficulty sleeping, mental health disorders, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, etc. Heart, faster heartbeat or palpitations, rise in blood pressure, increased risk of high cholesterol and heart attack. Stomach, nausea, stomach ache, heartburn, weight gain, increased or decreased appetite. That's crazy. Pancreas, increased risk of diabetes. Intestines, diarrhea, constipation. Isn't it nice? It doesn't discriminate, both extremes. And other digestive problems. Reproductive organs for women, once again, irregular or painful periods, reduced sexual desire. For men, impotence, low sperm production, reduced sexual desire. Other, acne and other skin problems, muscle aches and tension, increased risk for low bone density and weakened immune system, making it harder to fight off or recover from illness. That's a ton. If we talk about healthcare costs, we talk about how much money is spent on healthcare in this country, and we look at how much stress can be an issue with all this. It's insane. So say people can come up with ways to deal with the stress, coping. It can help in person to person, but also on a large scale. And we'll move on again. Stress management, here we go. So here's some things. Somebody want to read this? Any volunteer? Okay.
A mental, physical, emotional reaction to an event that's either short or long term that is going on in your life can be either positive or negative.
Thank you. Okay, so get it? Can be positive or negative. And tell you what, you want to take, or somebody want to take the positive stress? Okay, so positive, eustress as we call it. So anybody have an example of that? Taking stress, doing something in a positive way.
Being married, like playing in a wedding and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's positive, but at the same time, I mean, yeah, it's positive, but at the same time, it causes stress to you.
Okay, and now what you're doing with it. If you're frozen there, drinking up like a bottle of vodka and not getting the plans going, it's one thing. You take that anxiety to make it happen.
Going to the gym works for me. Work is a big stress reliever for me, believe it or not. As stressful as work, I want stress to be as what others would consider stressful. I need my job to be that way. I need to be motivated to keep going and nonstop.
Excellent. Okay, cool. So now here's the thing. So we'll get into like ways to deal with stress. So as we're looking at this, right, so you find your ways making it in a positive way. Example I love is a kid who's cramming for an exam. And are they going to let it crumble? Or are they going to take that pressure? I was one of those last second Charlies always, days of my youth. I'd be cramming at the last second. And then I really came through. So that was something that was helpful. In fact, So here's the thing I did in my school days. For a while, I would make the best, I know, and here I'm putting it out there, cheat sheets. I would make these tiny little cheat sheets, and my eyesight's pretty good now, but I definitely need the glasses. So in my days of my youth, I would make these tiny little cheat sheets. I was Mr. Creativity. But what the thing I found was, as I'd be writing these cheat sheets, I'd get all these words down for the test, whether it's Spanish vocabulary or anything else. What happened is, they became my study sheets, because writing them, the detail to them, I learned. But in terms of cramming for a test, okay, I turned it around. So you never know how we take it. Negative stress. So once again, say you're dealing with a wedding and you're going to just drink. You're not doing anything. So instead of going to the gym when you know that could be helpful, you're taking another way and you're just being more non-productive. Types of stressors. This is cool. So not everyone looks at this. Ripple effect. And let's see if anybody's dealt with these. Ripple effect. Major life event, i.e. divorce, losing your job, death in family. Anyone ever deal with that? Look at that. Okay, in some way, shape, or form. Chronic stressors. Long-term stress situations always there, i.e. work challenges. Now, you all work in the same place. Oh, there you go. But you know that none of you have ever dealt with work challenges here. Acute stressors. Example, computer crashing. Has anyone dealt with acute stressors? Has anyone dealt with traffic today getting here? You have to want to be somewhere at a certain time.
They consider that acute. I did. They consider that acute.
Well, what do you think? Like I'm mentioning it. What do you think?
Computer crashing, acute? Yeah.
Well, acute.
But
So-
like traffic, that's major. Like,
Well, I'm thinking, and here's the thing. I may be the one teaching this, and I never think of myself as an expert at anything. I think of myself as learning to be better. I'm always on the road, the journey to get better. So I'm far from the ultimate expert on stress management. I feel I've learned, I'm trained to teach it, yada, yada, yada. But I love when I do a training like this because I'll pick up from other people things. So anyone else, would you consider that acute? Or anybody else, another idea of acute stressor?
Pricking my finger.
Paper cuts.
Okay, there you go. Stress of unknown, and we never deal with that. Example, vacationing in foreign country, starting a new school, moving to a new country. So do you feel like sharing anything on that? If you feel like it.
When I came this into the country, my husband said, I should be very careful. He said so many things. If you are not careful, you are going to be given a ticket, this, that, and that. And I said, wow. Then why am I here for? That's my country. And then looking at the roads and other things, everywhere you have to drive long distance. And I was like, wow, how am I going to cope with this situation here? So finally, it goes back to your spiritual something that you're talking about.
Okay.
To run to God. God, I'm here.
So that's been good for you. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's really, yeah, and I'm getting out of it struggle.
Okay. Nice. Thank you. But perfect. You're here, and it's nice to take that perspective. Personal or non-professional stressors. No control of the situation. Okay, so maybe we're there. Stuck in traffic, right? Dealing with that today, some of us, right? With that rain. Anyone other examples of that? No control of the situation. Okay, here's one, and not going to be an issue for me, but has anyone dealt with it, say, this time of year, taxes? Say you have to get your information in, but maybe it hasn't shown up, it hasn't gotten there because of the mail or other things. Anyone ever not get a check or other examples of things? Think about all kinds of things we could have. Stress-related triggers. Oh, I love this one. Example, person swimming in water while you remember almost drowning one time. Have you ever dealt with anything that you see something that person's going through and you don't think of it as them going through it, you can relate so much?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm relating. Right?
Okay, but have you ever dealt with that? Any examples of that? Okay, so my son Dylan, so here it is once again, he's finishing with middle school, and next year high school. I think about and he's dealt with his issues with bullying. I think of it when he's going through all this. I know I can go back to times when I was bullied. I think about that. I think about other examples of things. So I connect to my son on that. And then other people going through things, I can relate to, what they've gone through, looking at it through my own eyes.
You can feel their pain.
You can, well, I think empathy. Yeah, oh, sure. Yeah. So anybody on that? Okay, and move on. Okay, now here we go. Stress management. Okay, so this is just some more the symptoms, but now this is written where before we talked about, we went over the physical, from the pictures. Symptoms of stress: irritability, constant depression, dermatitis, hives, high blood pressure. 70% of illness or sickness can be attributed to stress. Now, this was a couple years ago when I did this. I should update it, because then of more research, I found that it could be up to 85%. Ways of dealing with stress. Oh, other things. Stomach issues, trouble concentrating, weakened immune system. Anyone ever feel that low back pain or neck pain has been dealt with from stress? Okay, so we're getting close to our whole discussion presentation here. So let's cover this. Ways of dealing with stress. Write down thoughts in a journal. Does anyone ever do that? So I have my journal, I do that. Talk to a therapist or a life coach. Anyone? And now here's the thing, actually, that's been in my past at times I've done that. But I think we still have that stigma, you can tell me if you agree or not, that if something physical is going on, it's more socially appropriate. And even to this day and age, persons talking about a life coach or say a therapist, it still may be kind of awkward to say it. Should it be? But we get into that, right? Crazy. Read inspirational books. Anybody ever? Okay, and now one thing I'll be sending to Dina is I put together, and that was just a special signal, that sound we just had. No phone or anything. So I'm going to be sending Dina excerpts from the stress management packet I have. I'll just send a lot of information. And in there, I have an inspirational book reading list. So a whole page of things. Go to religious institution, pray, right? So a lot of you do that, which is cool. Talk with a friend. Raise your hands. Anybody here have friends or others you can talk to? Okay. Volunteer. Has anyone ever done that to relieve stress?
Very rewarding, that really.
Right? Just fills your heart, doesn't it? I mean, I love doing that. Get a good night's sleep or take a power nap.
Power naps are dangerous. They're never 20 minutes.
I know because somebody comes
4
late.
minimum.
Okay. Now, here's the thing that's important. So a number of months ago, I always have to do my continuing education for all the elements of me as a trainer, yoga teacher, massage therapist, and everything else. I went to a personal trainer conference a couple of months ago, and there's always the top level trainers in the world. One person who I've seen talk about different elements of exercise, what he covered this year was great. He is connected to one of the top sleep researchers in the world, and the information was really powerful, and it shifted me a little bit in my thinking. Because for years there was always the research I've read on how many hours sleep, and I know I would always see about 5, 6, and I was fine. But one thing that the research showed from this professional that he dug up was that you can, for sure, once again, you can catch up on your sleep. Pardon me. It can be solid, it can be great to get, say, 8 hours sleep a night, which is really highly recommended. But say you're not doing that, those power naps, you can catch up on the sleep. And that's important. Because once again, mentally, physically, emotionally, that's big. Do something for others, which kind of falls in line with volunteering. But has anyone ever felt that when you're plugged in, taking care of others, has anyone ever, show of hands, ever found that helps your stress? Okay. Meditate. Once again, so you meditate, I meditate, and that's my phone. So let me turn that off. I thought I turned off my phone. And it looks like somebody's probably calling me who is just trying to sell me something. Never saw that number. So forgive me. Okay, where are we? So anybody else meditate ever? Okay, now that's one thing also that potentially, Dina, say people are into it, I could always cover teaching a lot of different meditation skills to people. And the way I teach it, has anyone ever seen, I'm sure there's at least one or two people who used to watch Sex and the City in here. Anybody? Okay, so whether you have or haven't, I always thought of it that you had on the show, so Sarah Jessica Parker, her character, Carrie Bradshaw, had a thing for shoes, always trying on different shoes. So my approach with meditation is teaching people different techniques, finding the style or a few styles that work for them, for you. So that's something we can do. Just keep going till we find things. And exercise. And who here, once again, exercises? So you do, you do.
I don't go to a gym, but I like to exercise.
Good. Now what do you do for exercise?
I either ride my bike on the canal or just take a walk or something.
Nice.
Or do like little Zumba videos. I call it doing fake Zumba.
All right, cool. Good, but you get moving, right?
Yeah.
And do you find, let me ask you, do you feel better more on the physical or the mental? Or is it a combo?
I always say I wish I could get myself to do that every day.
Okay.
Feels good after. Feels mentally good.
Oh, good. Yeah, it just clears the head up, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. So, of course, one of those things. Now, try to remember, anybody in here, nobody here is direct care, right, with any of the clients?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, getting them moving once again. Because we're dealing, whether we're dealing with ourselves or saying we're dealing with a special population, anyone else. Same, a lot of this would be applying to them. And of course, with challenges, person may not be able to express themselves, might be more challenges to deal with stress, deal with things. So that's big. So exercise, okay. Let me ask anybody else, any other ideas? So we have them up here, but I love this part. Try to see anyone else, right by a show of hands, anyone can raise their hand, something else you do for stress
Well,
management.
I take a different approach on the writing things down. I just use this thing in the voice memo. I
Okay,
typically do it in my car.
okay.
I'll just like talk to my radio as opposed to writing it down. I'll never listen to it, but
But you're getting it out.
I get it out.
Nice. Feels good.
The number 7, the good night's
Oh, yeah.
sleep and take a nap.
Absolutely.
There is a trick to that. If you sleep in, I'm so serious. If you sleep in a fetal position for that 30-minute nap, you'll get the amount of sleep time that you need. It'll actually feel like an hour's sleep. I was taught that from someone a long time ago at a job, and I do that. And
Really?
when I need a quick nap, I sleep in a fetal position, and I feel like I got 4 hours.
Wow, so here's the thing. All my years doing all what I do, I never heard that. So my next nap, I'm definitely gonna do it. Yeah.
The meditate portion, my thoughts on that, for me, I like to clean to meditate.
Okay.
So if that's something that
You said clean?
I like to clean.
All right,
That's
cool.
meditative for me.
Okay, cool. So here's a good thing. We'll talk about meditation for a second. One of my favorite subjects. So I think of it as with meditation, we have all these classic styles of meditation. So this morning I actually did my candle meditation. I lit my candle and I'm simply gazing at the candle for about, that was around 15 minutes. Bubble meditation, which a lot of people haven't heard of, is a fun one, which I've gotten some people to do. So with bubble meditation, just imagine, you know, the captions for the comics, right? You get the dialogue going on back and forth with comics, and it's all in bubbles, encapsulated in bubbles. So with bubble meditation, imagine you're sitting there and your eyes close and thoughts pop in your head. So maybe it's hungry. You imagine a bubble around it and you see the word hungry float away. Sleepy. See the bubble around it float away. On and on and on. Now besides that, when it comes to other things, you're talking about the cleaning. The way I look at it, John Kabat-Zinn wrote a great book, Wherever You Go, There You Are. And he's really one of the preeminent authorities on mindfulness meditation, which the way he could say, the way he would discuss it, the way I look at it, is that mindfulness meditation is the foundation to meditation. So you might practice a particular technique, whether it's candle or, like I say, the bubble, or one of many, many other ways. Mindfulness might be immersed in what you're doing at the time. That's what you're doing. You're getting yourself lost in there. So let me ask you this as an example. And in fact, one of my favorite ways to teach mindfulness with people is with food. So what I've done at times is I've had people I've had it where when I've done one of those trainings, I might bring in carrots and maybe I'll bake some cookies and I'll give people a choice. Well, what do they want to meditate over? And for some reason, people kind of choose cookies over carrots. So with that, in fact, okay, well, we'll see about getting to that. But so with that,
If they overeat. is that-
well, the thing I was going to say is this: whether it comes to eating or anything else, have you ever been? Well, bring up eating as an example. Have you ever been there with your favorite food? What's your favorite food?
I can't narrow it down.
Okay. Anybody?
Yeah.
Fried chicken. Okay. And I'm a foodie. I like everything. So say fried chicken. Who said fried chicken? Have you ever had it where you have this fried chicken in front of you and you're just psyched? You're drooling. You're like raring to go, and you're eating it and you're lost. You're just enjoying this every single morsel. Yes?
Yes.
Have you ever had those moments where you're eating the chicken? Now, usually this works out well. They answer the way I hope they answer, but we'll see what happens. Have you ever had it where you're eating the chicken and your mind is somewhere else and you're thinking, oh, shoot, and you don't really,
You didn't taste it.
you, yeah. Okay, so there's an example of mindfulness. Mindfulness, you're lost in what you're doing. And usually people are mindful when they're passionate about something that they do. Right? You take an example of like a pro athlete.
I think it's
Sometimes
also
they
kind
get-
of what, like Richard said about coming to work when, you know, I get that feeling too. Like when I'm at work and I'm immersed in whatever I'm doing, even though the nature of the job can sometimes be stressful, it's like you're so focused on getting it done or like the results that's gonna come of it, and it'll take your mind off of anything else that you could be going through, like at home or something like that.
Excellent, thanks. And well, there you go. Sometimes people need to be at work to get away from.
And that is meditative, correct?
Yeah, well, you
That's
look
what
at
I'm
mindful.
looking at here.
Now
Yes,
you may
right.
not have it. Now you may not have it at like the whole time. And the thing is, with mindfulness, will flow in and out. When I went through some yoga teacher training years ago, and I talked to the one of the heads of the center about the fact that me, when it was say I was doing my meditation or say yoga relaxation, I might either doze off or my mind would go somewhere else. And I was really hard on myself until, of course, he said, look, you know, his perspective is, well, we're human beings before spiritual beings. You do what you can. And it's kind of like life, right? Okay, I'm going to tell a quick story. This man was searching all over the world to find out the meaning of enlightenment. He went through cities, walked through city after city after city. He went to seaports. He went to mountains. He went to forests. He went everywhere, trying to find people, going up to people. Can you please explain to me the meaning of enlightenment? And then he was pretty much done. He thought, okay, he's not going to find someone. But then he figured there's one spot he didn't go to. So he went somewhere else, like another mountain. And he's up there. And he sees this really old guy with this great big heavy pack on his back. And the guy's walking. And he looks at this man. It looks like the man really had been everywhere and may have had an idea. And he asked him. And he first said, kind sir, I have searched everywhere for enlightenment. I've gone through cities, seaports, mountains, forests, anywhere you could name. I do not know what the meaning is. Can you, sir, can you please tell me what enlightenment means? And the man says, takes the pack, takes it off his back. Ah! Wow. What comes after that? So how long do we hold on to anything, right? Anyway. Let's see. So anyone else, any other ideas or any other
Two more
ways of
things
stress?
that,
Sure.
Definitely pampering myself. I definitely use that as a
Giving you a high five.
means of stress management.
Beautiful.
I make sure that, you know, I get my massages outside of my 5-year-old.
Nice.
Massages.
Good.
Or even if it's just, you know, going to the, getting my toes done or my hair
And,
done or something
shoulder
like
work.
that.
Good.
So I make sure I take time for that. And then also laughing. I like to go to like comedy shows or just a really, really funny movie.
Excellent.
That's gonna have me like buckle over. I feel
Excellent.
so much better after that.
Nice. Excellent. Very cool. Last night, first time in a while, my bathtub has like the, what do you call it, the bear claws? One of those old-time bathtubs. There, yeah, right. So I haven't taken a bath in a while. It's usually my showers, but I took time last night. Now, I had a friend come by who I trade massage with. When you go to massage school, you learn trade with people because you pick up each other's techniques, and of course, you're taking care of your health. So my preemptive strike, I took a nice Epsom salts bath with my Epsom salts and some essential oils, and that's a great thing. But the self-pampering, it's a great way to go, right? And the thing is, we're looking at positive ways, and there's other positive ways. Just finding what works for you, right? And being open to what's out there.
And being comfortable with your process.
Thank you.
Don't let people take that process from you.
Well, we can't. We can only choose to let them.
Right.
Or take a
power.
power.
Chooses to let people drag him out of his zen. I used to do everything y'all just said. The massaging, the bubble bath, the pampering myself. Like, I'm vain. I can give you one for each one. The pampering myself, vain. Bubble baths, not for men. I'm serious. Like, and then the what was the one you said? The massages. The pedicure, yes, a female thing, and the massages couldn't do because that was someone else touching the body that belonged to someone else. So it was someone
Had something to say about everything.
perspective
Right.
dragging me from it.
Right.
But all those things make me feel amazing.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and me, I've been doing massage for 35 plus years, so I've been plugged into pampering myself for years. I love hitting the gym as well, hard workouts, but then the thought of pampering myself, massage, well, that's been part of my life forever. And then I'll do enough other things. So find your ways. Right? Let's see. I think, let's move on. So, and actually we went the wrong way. Okay, anyway. So, finishing up, do you like that picture of me? Why feel this way when you can feel, and we're talking picture of massage, when you can feel this way? So that's what it's about, right? And we're just trying to cover a lot of things. Anyone, any final thoughts, questions, anything? Great, okay, well, cool. And here's the thing. Once again, Dina, I will talk about what we'll put together, other things. I can come in, work on meditation, other stress management skills, bring in the massage chair once again, exercise. I mean, in the past, I've done some yoga here and some of the Qigong. And now Qigong is, Tai Chi comes from Qigong. So Qigong is one of the 4 original forms of Chinese medicine. And one of the big premiums of Qigong is stress management. So I love yoga. I've been doing yoga since I was 12. But then the Qigong is just another way to go. Now, we can cover a lot of things.
The Qigong, that's a stretching technique?
So Qigong, to demonstrate one or two things. And I was kidding before with Sonia, who is Jersey Indie, is doing an awesome job filming all this. And selective people, super people. So I was saying before when we had the rain, well, I should just demonstrate like swimming dragon in the rain. So with Qigong, it's flowing movements. So this is called swimming dragon. You have the wave. And then you have another things, open the gates, pebble in the pond. A lot of amazing physical movements, exercise, and moving meditation. Once again, I love yoga. And this might be better for some people than for others than yoga. Everyone's different, right? Some people might lean to the yoga. I like both. Tai Chi is just as good as Qigong. Tai Chi tends to have shorter form, longer form, more regimented in its way. Qigong tends to have hundreds of different exercises and variations. So for instance, that's pebble in the pond. This is another version of pebble in the pond.
It just looks relaxing. doesn't it?
Those are brushstrokes.
It is. Yeah, no, it's very nice. So there's a lot of ways to go. Okay?
Brushstrokes in the air.
There we go. Anyway, I guess that's it. So everyone, thank you very much. Thank you.